welcome to Lego Church. My name's Alexis and we're going to be doing another Lego Church video today. I want to introduce you to a character. His name is Daniel.
And I have King Darius. We are so glad you guys are here today, and I am super happy that Alexis came and helped me introduce Lego Church. She's got her own Lego Church on the Facebook page for the journey, so you gotta go check it out. Are you doing a new one? Okay, she's got a new one coming.
All right, wasn't that awesome getting to see Alexis? And she introduced two new characters for us today. Here they are again, King Darius and Daniel. Now, most of you may have heard this story before in the Bible. It's about Daniel and what he did to show his faith in God. It's an amazing story, just like all these stories that we've been learning about over the last several weeks. But this story I've discovered has something new in it that maybe none of you have seen before. I was reading through the story and trying to get an idea in my head of how I was going to tell this story and build the Legos. And towards the end of the story, I realized, wow, there is something else in this story that I never realized before. I've heard this story many times, and like I said before, I've told you that there's a lot of times where I read through stories in the Bible or different passages or different verses, and I get something different out of them, maybe the 10th time I've read it. So I'm going to share that with you more towards the end, but we're going to start our story today with telling you a little bit of the history on where Daniel is and how he is in the place he's at. So as you remember, several weeks ago, we did a story about three guys that went into the fiery furnace. You remember Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego? Well, they all were taken captive along with Daniel from Israel, and they were taken to Babylon. And over time, as you remember in the story of the fiery furnace, that King Nebuchadnezzar was the king at the time. Well, time has passed, and Daniel is a bit older now, and he has actually been, Nebuchadnezzar is no longer king, and the king after that was Belshazzar, and now we have a new king in the land. So it's been many, many years since the fiery furnace, and that new king, of course, is King Darius. Now, King Darius really liked Daniel. So let's go take a look and see where they were all living. And we can see King Darius's palace and just exactly the scenario that we're going to be dealing with this week. All right, let's go take a look. All right, so here we have Babylon. We'll take a little tour of the town here. We'll start over here at Daniel's house. We can see there's Daniel inside his house, and the alleyway down there, and the doorway to his house. And you can see there's another entrance to another house down there, and Daniel's got a neighbor that lives behind him. And as we back off here a little bit, you can see the palace. And there's the palace where King Darius sits on the throne with all of his guards and his men. All right. Back out here, you can get one more good look at Babylon and the city that we're going to be dealing with today. All right, so now you kind of see the lay of the land there. You've seen King Darius's palace and the red carpet that goes right up to his throne. And you've seen kind of the neighborhood that it was in there with Daniel's house there close by, and even a neighbor behind Daniel looking out the window. And you know, this Lego build probably took me the longest of all of them that I've done so far. My son Solomon requested this story to be told, and I wasn't sure about it. He actually asked me to do it probably about 4 or 5 weeks ago, and I just couldn't put my mind around it as to how to build it. So I tackled it anyways, and you'll see kind of later on why it was kind of a difficult build. I'm going to show you a little bit more about it as the story progresses. And if you want to follow along, we're going to be doing this right out of Daniel chapter 6. There's a lot of good stuff in here, and pretty much the whole story takes place in Daniel chapter 6. So I'm going to start by reading exactly what happened at the beginning of our story here with King Darius. He just recently became king, and he's about to appoint some people to help him look over the whole land. So here we go. Daniel chapter 6, Verse 1. It pleased Darius to appoint 120 satraps to rule throughout the kingdom, with 3 administrators over them, one of whom was Daniel. The satraps were made accountable to them so that the king might not suffer loss. So King Darius was looking to look over his whole land, and he wanted some very trustworthy people to look over things so that he wouldn't incur any loss, people stealing from him or trying to take advantage of him. So we're going to pick up here in verse 3. Now Daniel is so distinguished himself among the administrators and the satraps by his exceptional qualities that the king planned to set him over the whole kingdom. So Daniel was one of the 3 guys that got to look over the 120 satraps. So satraps were kind of like governors that looked over different parts of the land. And Daniel was picked as one of the 3, but then he was set above that to even look over the other 2 guys that he was supposed to be ruling with. But King Darius really liked Daniel. Daniel was a very trustworthy guy, and he knew that he could trust Daniel with just about anything. So let's go take a look at the kingdom and Darius's palace as he is getting ready to do this. All right, let's go take a look. All right, here we are once again. We're coming in here, and as you can see, Daniel and King Darius and the 2 guys are there. And Darius is about to appoint Daniel to be the ruler over just about everything. So King Darius here. I'm Batman. I'm Darius. I'm going to appoint Daniel to take care of all of everything that I own. I'm going to put him even above you 2 guys. And so you're going to listen to exactly what Daniel says, because I trust him the most, because I'm Batman. I'm King Darius. Okay, we've seen there now how King Darius has set Daniel up to be pretty much his second in command. Even though there are 3 top guys there, Daniel is the top out of the 3, and he has been given great power. And let's take a look back in Daniel, and we'll see exactly how those guys felt. I don't think they were really too happy about it. Let's pick up here in Daniel chapter 6 in verse 4. At this, the administrators and the satraps tried to find grounds for charges against Daniel in his conduct of government affairs, but they were unable to do so. They could find no corruption in him because he was trustworthy and neither corrupt nor negligent. Finally, these men said, "We will never find any basis for charges against this man, Daniel, unless it has something to do with the law of his God." Now, they could not find anything that Daniel did wrong. Daniel was a trustworthy guy, and they were trying to find some way that Daniel messed up so that they could turn him into King Darius and say, "No, we can't have this guy." And the reason why they didn't want him to be in charge was because Daniel was not from their land. He was Jewish. He was from Israel. Now, they knew that Daniel was very trustworthy and that he also loved God. And so they're going to try to take advantage of the situation. Let's go and see what happens. That darn Daniel. I don't know what we're going to do. We can't have that guy ruling over us. I know. That doesn't seem fair at all. Daniel's an Israelite. He's not even one of us. How can that King Darius do that? I don't know, but we're going to have to find a way to trap Daniel. You know, he does love his God a lot. Maybe we can figure out a way to trick him there. We got to put our heads together and figure this out. All right, so now you can see that those guys were kind of unhappy. They didn't want Daniel being in charge of them, being that he was a Jew from another land. But you know, him and King Darius had this relationship where he really trusted Daniel. So let's take a look back in the book of Daniel chapter 6 and find out exactly what happened here. Let's pick up in verse 6. It says, "So the administrators and the satraps went as a group to the king and said, 'O King Darius, live forever. The royal administrators, prefects, satraps, advisors, and governors have all agreed that the king should issue an edict and enforce the decree that anyone who prays to any god or man during the next 30 days except to you O king, shall be thrown into the lion's den. So, they want him to make a law that makes everybody in trouble for bowing down to any god or praying to any god except for King Darius. So, and they were going to throw him into the lion's den. Now that sounds really scary. Let's go see if we can find that lion's den. All right, so here we are. We're coming back into the palace, and we see our two guys here trying to trick King Darius. Hey, Darius. I'm Batman. Yes, I am Darius. We've got an idea for a new law. Since you are so great and so mighty, we think for the next 30 days that nobody should be able to pray to anything or anybody but you, because you are so awesome. And if they do break that law, once you sign it into action, that they get thrown into the lion's den. That sounds like a great idea. I am pretty awesome, because I am Batman. I am King Darius. Let's do that. Let's make that law happen. Anybody that prays to anybody but me for the next 30 days gets thrown into the lion's den. Where is the lion's den? Let's back out here and take a look. Oh, look, there's Daniel. Daniel's walking by this open door in the street. Where is that door? Where does that go to? Oh, what's that down there? That looks like a lion. Let's go down underground and find out what's going on. Whoa, look at that. There's 4 hungry Lego lions under the city. Uh-oh. That can't be good for Daniel. All right, so it turns out that the lion's den is right under the palace in the city there. And some pretty hungry looking lions are in that den. Now, these guys that didn't like Daniel, they were definitely trying to put together a plan here. Let's go to Daniel chapter 6 again and take a look at what it says here. So he's going to issue the edict. It says in verse 8, "Now, O king, issue the decree and put it into writing so that it cannot be altered in accordance with the laws of the Medes and the Persians, which cannot be repealed." So King Darius put the decree in writing. So, once it's in writing and the king signs it according to the laws of that land, no matter what happens, this law cannot be repealed. So anybody from this point forward in the next several days, if they do any praying to anybody else but King Darius, they get to go and visit the lions in the lion's den. So let's go check out and see what happens here in our story. Look, there goes Daniel. Looks like he's heading back to his house. I think, if I remember right, he goes up to his house and he prays almost every day. Let's go check this out. All right, so there's Daniel. Daniel's going back to his house. And just about every day at this time, Daniel gets in front of his window here. He opens the windows towards Jerusalem and he prays. Hey, look. Just like we suspected. There's Daniel. And he's praying. But he's not praying to Darius. He's praying to his God. We better go tell the king. Okay, so now we see that Daniel, of course, he loves God. He's just not going to pray to King Darius. Even though he and King Darius got along pretty well, Daniel is going to obey his God. Now, this can be something that's kind of a struggle for us. I know that we live in a free country and we can pray to God and not worry about it, and we certainly won't be thrown into any sort of a lion's den or be threatened to be thrown into any sort of a lion's den or anything like that for praying to God. But you know, sometimes we do feel pressures at school maybe, or with our group of friends when we do talk about God. And some people out there just don't believe in God, and they're sure going to let you know about it. And we need to be more like Daniel. Daniel didn't even blink. He didn't flinch. He didn't do anything. He went right up to his room and he prayed to God. And he didn't really even care who saw him. He did it right in the window. let's look here in Daniel chapter 6 and see what Daniel did. This is pretty amazing. Now Daniel learned that the decree, this is in verse 10, had been published. He went home to his upstairs room where the windows opened toward Jerusalem. 3 times a day he got down on his knees and prayed, giving thanks to his God, just as he had done before. So Daniel didn't change a thing. Daniel still believed in God. He wasn't going to pray to King Darius at all. Now, that can be a really good lesson for us. You know, we really need to stand up and let people know what we believe in. You know, we can't succumb to pressure of other people around us. And even if we get made fun of, you know, I know that getting made fun of isn't really a good time, and it certainly can hurt some feelings. But it's nothing like what Daniel went through coming up here.
Oh, so King Darius, guess what? We just saw Daniel praying, not to you, but to his God. What? I thought Daniel and I were buddies. Oh no, I really like Daniel too. Well, it says in your edict that you must throw him into the lion's den now. No way around it. Can't change it. Too bad. Looks like we're going to be getting rid of Daniel. So sad. Oh, there must be a way around this. Nope, no way around it. Sorry.
Okay, so those guys made King Darius aware of what was going on. And they certainly kind of tricked him, I think. But King Darius couldn't refuse to obey the law. Because according to the laws of the land, that if the king makes a law, then it sticks until it's over. And he did. He made this law that they have to pray to him for a certain period of time. So King Darius really liked Daniel, and he really kind of stressed out about it. He really didn't want this to happen to Daniel, but those guys made sure that King Darius remembered that, hey, if somebody's not praying to you, they need to be thrown into the lion's den. So let's go take a look at that and see exactly what happens to Daniel.
So here we find King Darius and his 2 men, and the lion's den is open, and Daniel is on his way down into the lion's den. Some very hungry lions. Very hungry lions. And it says that once Daniel was lowered down into the den, they closed up the gate and they sealed it with a rock, so that Daniel could not get out.
Okay, so they got Daniel and they're getting ready to throw him into the lion's den. Let's pick up Daniel chapter 6 and verse 16 and find out what happens here. It says here in verse 16, "So king gave the order, and they brought Daniel and threw him into the lion's den. The king said to Daniel, 'May your God, whom you serve, continue to rescue you.' A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den, and the king sealed it with his own signet ring and with the rings of his nobles, so that Daniel's situation might not be changed. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night without eating and without any entertainment being brought to him, and he could not sleep." See, that tells you how much that King Darius actually liked Daniel, but he couldn't go against the law that he made. So Daniel had to spend the night in the lion's den. I don't know about you, but I've seen some lions, and especially my Lego lions. They look pretty fierce. And whenever some hungry lions are around, they tend to want to eat. And that's about all lions want to do is eat, 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 eat. And so Daniel was in a pretty bad situation here. So let's go take a look at Daniel inside the lion's den.
As Daniel was down in the lion's den, it says in the book of Daniel that an angel joined him and closed the mouths of the hungry lions.
Wow, that was amazing. So Daniel gets put into the lion's den with 4 hungry Lego lions. And an angel comes, and the lions do nothing. They just sit there all night. How amazing is that? Lions that are super hungry don't touch Daniel at all, because the angel that God sent to protect him. Let's go back to Daniel chapter 6, and let's find out exactly what happens and what it says there. Verse 19 starts, "At the first light of dawn, the king got up and hurried to the lion's den. When he came near the den, he called to Daniel in anguished voice, 'Daniel, servant of the living God, whom you serve continually, been able to rescue you from the lions?' Daniel answered, 'O king, live forever. My God sent his angel, and he shut the mouths of the lions. They have not hurt me, because I was found innocent in his sight, nor have I ever done any wrong before you, O king.' The king was overjoyed and gave orders to lift Daniel out of the den, and when Daniel was lifted from the den, no wound was found on him, because he had trusted in his God." Now that is awesome. What a testimony that is to King Darius and everybody there. Let's go watch that. Let's go see Daniel being taken out of the lion's den.
I gotta open this thing up to see if Daniel's okay. Daniel, you okay down there? Oh yeah, I'm all good. God sent an angel down here, and he helped close the mouths of the lions. They're not hungry at all. Awesome, why don't you come on out? So Daniel climbs up. He comes out. Not a scratch on you. That's awesome. Your God is awesome.
All right, so Daniel gets taken out of the lion's den. How amazing is that? And you know what it says here in Daniel chapter 6, that the guys that tricked King Darius actually wound up throwing them into the lion's den, and they got devoured by the lions. So those were actually some very hungry Lego lions. Now, this is a great story, you know. Sometimes it's really hard for us to stand for our God. And like I said before, we're never going to get thrown into a lion's den for that. But, you know, we could get teased or ridiculed or made fun of. And so remember this story about Daniel. When you're in that situation, pray to God. Ask him to help you. But stand firm in what you believe in. Now, when I was reading this story, like I said, I found something else in here that was really amazing to me. You know, those lions were very hungry. And they closed their mouths. The angel came down and closed their mouths, and they could have easily destroyed Daniel. Now, a lot of times when we're with our brothers and sisters, or maybe some friends, and they do something that we don't like, a lot of times we lash out with our mouth. We open our mouths. We don't close them like the lions did. You know, a lot of times hurtful things can come out of our mouths that can destroy people with some of the things that we say. Maybe we call somebody a name, or we just say some hurtful stuff to them. You know, before we do that, why don't we call to God? Maybe he'll send an angel and help us to say something different, or maybe close our mouth altogether, just like the lions. Remember, those lions could have destroyed Daniel. And you know what? A lot of times we can destroy people or really hurt them bad with our words. Let's think about this story in Daniel and think about how the lions' mouths were closed. Even though you know those lions were hungry and wanted to destroy Daniel, and a lot of times you want to say something hurtful to that person that is making you upset or has done something to you that you don't like. Let's be more like the lions. Close our mouths. Pray to God. God can help you. He can send an angel to help you. Maybe put better words in your mouth. All right, guys. This is it for this week. We saw Daniel in the lion's den. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope to see you again next week. And thanks again to Alexis for helping out at the beginning. That was awesome. Have a great week, guys.